So, Molly, I'm so happy to be here today. What's interesting is that we're going to talk all things peppermint, health, recipes, products. And then all I can think about is peppermint patty on the Snoopy's.
Yay Networks.
A quick note before we dive into today's podcast. If you like what you hear, I would love for you to subscribe to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, wherever you download your podcast. It would also be incredible if you take a minute to rate and review this podcast. Those things do matter and they really help us. Y'all are in for a treat today. Not only are we talking about peppermint and everything holiday related with peppermint mocha, peppermint chocolate, white chocolate, we are doing this with one of my very good friends, Ben McLauchlin. He's joined me on this podcast before. He and I for years did baking segments on WGNO, and he's just one of my partners in crime, one of my favorite people to spend time with. So welcome, Ben.
Thank you, Molly. I love being here. I really appreciate it. Molly, did you hear that little voice change?
Aww.
It was like from the Brady Bunch, that Peter Brady moment where he was like, yeah. But I'll tell you, I can promise y'all I'm not going through puberty. So thank you again, Molly.
Were you a little verklempt?
I'm not sure what happened. We've just been talking. All of a sudden, my throat got excited. I don't know. My epiglottal flap got in the way. Is that what they'd say?
And I wish we were together in person, but we're looking at each other through FaceTime for this. But yeah, for our listeners, this is something Ben always has really fun ideas. He can take things that are kind of like your go-tos that maybe you're having through the holidays or anytime, and he's going to see how can he flip them and make them healthier. And he's just, Ben, you're so creative. Like you always say that you kind of grew up like a Paula Deen type cook or baker.
Right. I did.
Not health-minded, but over the years, you've transformed.
Yeah, and there's a specific recipe we have that we're not talking about right now, but later on it'll be a candy cane recipe that I grew up with. My mom made it, and we found a way to make it a little better for you, but still delicious.
So I feel like this topic was inspired. It's one of these that like every holiday there's peppermint something that's like a hit, and it's there's pumpkin spice latte, of course, is like one of the things that we talk about earlier in the season. And it's one of those also years ago, I used to think, boy, this is like a trend. And then it's not a trend. It's here to stay. And then right on the heels of like a pumpkin spice latte is the peppermint,
It's kind of the transition. Like I think we've talked about this before. Like, it's like, does that mean it's kind of like right when Thanksgiving is over, we put away anything Thanksgiving with that pumpkin spice, and then you have to bring out peppermint for December.
Right. Like for
Christmas
Black Friday shopping, you need your peppermint. Yes.
Yeah, it's a peppermint cocoa, whatever it is.
Which one do you like better, pumpkin spice or peppermint things?
I'm a peppermint kind of guy. I love pumpkin spice. You and I have had many experiences with many desserts that are pumpkin spice themed, but peppermint is just, what's so interesting to me about peppermint is that you would think because that gives you that cooling kind of sensation, like it refreshes you would think it would be more popular in summer. When you're, where I'm in Dallas, you're in New Orleans, we're always sweating. It's always humid. And you would think somehow the peppermint would be refreshing in the summer, but we love it in the winter.
You're right. It would make a lot of sense because it does. It's like a little air conditioner in your mouth when you have it.
It's a little air conditioner in your mouth.
You're right. I never thought about that. Why do we do this to ourselves?
I think this is our announcement. We are making peppermint year round, not just for the cold months.
And so there's you and I talked about this. I said, hey, Ben, I want to do a podcast on peppermint finds. And so y'all, we're going to be talking peppermint white chocolate, peppermint mocha, and peppermint chocolate, all kinds of different things here. And you, of course, you were like immediately down for it. You went in and said, well, Molly, like, of course, we're going to be talking about the health benefits. And I was like, oh, right. So when you're looking at health benefits of peppermint, there's peppermint leaf and there's peppermint extract. Most of the benefits that we're going to be sharing in just a second are specifically related to peppermint oil. And so we'll be really clear that if you are getting that really, let's just say it, synthetic, maybe not quite so natural peppermint coffee drink at your favorite coffee shop that starts with an S. It's not
Right.
like you're not going to, don't make yourself feel better about having your 60 grams of sugar peppermint iced coffee because we're these health benefits we're about to talk about. It's more for like real peppermint oil. If you're using peppermint oils to flavor things, or if that's one of the ingredients in the things that we were using. So, what are some of the
Yes.
things
For
that you
instance, it
found?
is an ingredient.
Yeah.
Oh, well, so it is an ingredient in another recipe we're going to discuss. I used peppermint oil to give that wonderful peppermint experience in my chocolate pudding. so, so yes. But as far as just, I think I saw a little bit out there on the Google and the interwebs, and I try to find reliable sources. And then, of course, I check it with Miss Molly over here. Is, digestive disorders, or there be some other conditions. Molly, you may be able to go into more specific detail on that, but it may help with IBS, I think, or something of the sort.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like I said, I was like, oh, Ben, thank you, because a, that is a really, so many times if we're talking flavor profiles and, what are fun versions or healthier versions of whatever's kind of that fun, trendy flavor of the moment, there's not always the health benefits associated with it. But yes, when we're looking at peppermint oil, the GI benefits, now this is going to be it's going to be different for everyone. Of course, different people respond different ways. But when we look at the data, the research, there's different kind of portals that I'll go to that are subscription based. And so one that I really love is Natural Medicine's database. And I believe it's around like $90 or $100 a year to subscribe. But our nutrition team subscribes to this. And what I love about it is you can type in a product like peppermint oil and it'll tell you, it'll link to the studies on it, and then it'll categorize it that it's likely effective for these conditions, possibly effective for these, likely ineffective for some, or more research is needed. So it's really makes it kind of a really easy, fast reference. And one of the things that has the most research or the most support is actually IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. And so, kind of just global IBS symptoms like abdominal pain in general, taking peppermint oil, but specifically taking it in like the enterically coated capsules. And
Yep.
so the idea behind that is so that it is staying intact as it's passing through our digestive tract before it's being dissolved and absorbed. Also, if you were having a lot of peppermint oil in your esophageal tract, I mean, it could burn or cause damage there. So specifically having enterically coated peppermint oil capsules is recommended by the American College of Gastroenterology, has this as part of their protocol for relieving IBS symptoms like abdominal pain. And then also simply reflux or indigestion is another that taking peppermint oil can help. Now, I have had some people tell me the opposite, that they feel
That's what I was thinking. When
Yeah.
you're talking about the esophagus and it kind of being harsh.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting that it can go in, but then help with what could come up.
Yeah, because you do have some people say they feel like peppermint gives them like that indigestion, but there are some people that it can help. And then you saw also headaches.
That's right. I have a sister specifically who has tough migraines. I may suggest peppermint to her. But yeah, I was surprised to see that.
No, I'm seeing that's mostly topical, that you would be rubbing, like it would be topical peppermint. So she's going to smell so good.
She'll be amazing. Everybody will think she's Christmas who walked in, or just the holiday spirit who came along or something.
And this is one that there is an abundance of suggested or proposed benefits. And so we won't go through all of them, but I mean, you name it, there's going to be some level of, is there a benefit to taking peppermint oil for this? But those that we just touched on just now have a little bit more of science to support it. The others, there's a lot of, maybe a smaller study showed yes, others showed no, but a little bit of discrepancy there. Any others that were popping up on your radar?
Those are really the two that were the most interesting, but I also love a little bit of the history, not to get, too crazy and intellectual, Molly. We like to keep it, I guess, a little bit more approachable than get too heady. We like to laugh a lot. Not that you can't laugh in an academic space, We're more goofy, I think, than we are like sitting at the table with all the professors. But
we're going to have a history lesson regardless.
Yeah, it's a little bit's going to come out.
Okay.
Now, because I had never really thought it's coming out. I never really thought about peppermint. And so today, just a little prep, I was like, why do they call it peppermint? Like spearmint for some reason makes sense to me. Why peppermint? Now, I will tell you, I did not really find an answer for the use of peppermint. As far as how do we say that? Ontological? No, that's too heady. What is the word?
I mean, like the origin of the word?
The origin of the word. I was trying to think what they call that.
I don't know what the word is for that.
I used to know that word, but that's just where I am in life. Okay. So the beautiful part is that they would say that the use of peppermint dates back to almost 1000 BC. So it has been known, and it was historically for things you're talking about. I think for digestive issues or for headaches.
So when you say the use, also like the medicinal use or the purposeful use, not just flavor. The medicinal
use. That's right. That's right. And I just think that's cool to see. And what's even more is that they say the word mint comes from Greek mythology. Did you know that?
No, and how's it related to Greek mythology?
Well, listen, it's kind of interesting how you can also put it with the holiday season. It's a little bit of a dichotomy or a conflict.
Okay.
So supposedly Hades, it's true. Okay. Supposedly Hades was having an affair with a nymph named Mint. Why are you laughing at me?
What was the nymph's name?
Mint. Minthe.
Okay.
And then what happened was Hades' wife, a woman scorned, you got to be careful. Molly, you can't even talk with me right now. You're laughing so hard.
But I'm trying to be quiet so our listeners can hear the story. So Hades had an affair with a nymph named Mint.
Okay. That's correct. Minthe. And then when Hades' wife found out, which I don't remember her name, she turned mint into a common plant that grew into a weed. But to soften his lover's fate, I am reading, that's a quote, Hades altered the curse and he left her a weed that had a sweet, calming scent. But that is how, at least in Greek mythology, the story of the mint and how we now enjoy what we enjoy about peppermint and spearmint. Supposedly in Greek mythology, that's how it came about.
So it basically stemmed from the god of the underworld having the affair with the nymph named Mint, who was turned into a weed, and now she's a tasty, sweet weed. Because mint actually still does. Mint grows very prolifically. You could say like a weed. Yes. Okay.
Yes, 100%. It will take over your whole bed. I know you love flowers. And you love gardening.
Yes.
Mint will take over if you. It's a cover shrub, and it smells wonderful.
My father-in-law plants a little bit of it, but he kind of does it in the side. They have a house on the corner, and there are side doors on the corner, and he plants it there. And but it takes over that whole space when he plants it. Yeah. And the neighbors just like, if anyone needs it in the whole neighborhood, they come because it's right there in the front yard, basically taking over. Yeah. Let's take a minute to share about Nutrafol, sponsor for this week's episode. Y'all have heard me say it before. When it comes to skin and hair care, I'm a big rules follower and very consistent. I follow the specific recommendations of my dermatologist. And when I learned about Nutrafol, I'd reached out to her to get her feedback on it. And she said that not only does she recommend it to her patients, she also uses it herself. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve thicker, fuller, healthier hair from the inside out. Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting the 5 root causes of thinning: stress, hormones, environment, nutrition, and metabolism. It is possible to grow thicker, healthier hair and support our show by going to Nutrafol.com, entering promo code FUELED to save $15 off your first month's subscription. This is their best offer anywhere. It's only available to U.S. customers for a limited time. Plus, free shipping on every order. Get $15 off at Nutrafol.com. That's spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code FUELED. Now, you also said we talked history of mint. You said you have some history of the candy cane, which I'm interested about.
Now we can talk about the candy cane. That would
Okay.
also go with our candy cane cookie.
Yes.
But we can still, we can give a little bit more of a tease.
Okay.
So the candy cane, because I was just like, looking up peppermint. Of course, the candy cane is going to be attached. And supposedly back in 1670, there was a choir master at the Cologne Cathedral in Germany, and he handed out sugar sticks to his young singers to keep them quiet during certain ceremonies or whatever, where we need to be a little calmer. And but he also made them in the form of a shepherd's crook to go along with the season. And now we have the candy cane.
Were they striped or swirled, or do we know anything about?
This doesn't quite get into that detail, but they were peppermint flavored.
So it's basically to keep kids busy with sugar and
Which would be the antithesis of what you would want to give a child to
but
help
that's
them
typical. I
focus.
think, holidays, growing up, like your first thoughts about as a kid, peppermint during the holidays were not a Starbucks peppermint latte. It was candy canes and like real
Yeah.
mints or like those kind of like special mints that really dissolve in your mouth and like all that stuff is just sugar.
Yes.
Now, speaking of candy canes, I haven't seen any on store shelves that are low in sugar naturally, but you had found some for something that we did and pointed out to me. I guess
Yeah.
they have
I'm
like
trying to think of the brand. It may have been Yum Earth, which typically they normally have, cleaner ingredients. They don't have the dyes
that's the big
that
thing.
you
Yeah.
have educated me not to consume. And they're lower sugar than the normal candy cane we grew up with, to
Yeah,
my
so
knowledge.
the the if you were going to buy these kind of store-bought candy canes, like we said, we haven't seen any that are lower, like really low sugar or like with a plant-based sweetener instead. But so they still would have at least, some, if not like it may be lower, it may be the same sugar. But the biggest thing that I liked about it was that if you were going to go that route, they didn't have like the red number 40. They have just like the natural red coloring. And so Ben uses that. Like if you're going to use a crushed, like you would use crushed candy canes as like a garnish on top of things. And so, and
Exactly.
you and I also talked about that. Like, even though those are still higher in sugar, it might be, a better quality sugar or doesn't have the red number 40, but they're still sugar. But if you were going to make any of these things that we'll be talking about in a little bit, like say the pudding that's got like the chocolate pudding in it or any of these, and you're going to put it as a little garnish, it's not going to add that much. And it adds like kind of
It's
that festive
not.
crunch. Um,
Yeah.
so that's
Because I
one
was
that I
just
would say.
looking at the Yum Earth.
Yeah.
Molly, I'm sorry. I
Mm.
spoke over you. We were trying to avoid that, y'all. That's why we're on FaceTime. But Molly, just a quick search. The beauty of being able to do this while we chat. And the Yum Earth has, and I don't know the comparison of like the normal old school that we used to buy, but it's 11 grams of added sugar. But like you said, that's per candy cane.
Yeah.
So if we just topped up one cane and sprinkled as a garnish across,
A whole
9 to
recipe.
12 servings,
Yeah. It's nothing.
it's still beautiful. It's still
Yeah.
pretty, but that may be like 1 gram of sugar per
Yeah.
square or something.
Yeah. We have a peppermint scone and it is actually on our Eat Fit
That's right.
app. And it's a scone from our Eat Fit cookbook, but Ben had adapted it to be a peppermint scone. We have the recipe and photo for you on our app. And that's one that's a perfect example that Ben did a little bit of that crushed candy cane on it. And it looks beautiful.
Yeah, I was about to say, Molly,
Lilies.
that's my recipe.
Yes. We have so many of
Okay.
our bakery items or bins that are just lovely that we still use and share all the time. In fact, I shared one today. Lily's is one. Lily's has
Yes.
like chocolate chips, but they have the peppermint white chocolate chips.
Yep, they do. Which here's the thing with peppermint. You were like, because even in some pre-discussion, we were just like, you can talk about what to do with like, listen, if you want chocolate and Lily's chips in there, throw some Lily's chips in there. Like if you want to put some peppermint oil or pepper extract and you're just craving peppermint and you feel like you want kind of a mini experience, like even one of the recipes we will discuss is the old school better than sex. Or they may have called it, Molly, I feel like you want to chime in. I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Lily's label to see if it has peppermint oil or just like peppermint flavor.
Yeah, look at it. That's interesting.
Yeah, there's no peppermint oil
yeah.
because I thought, wow, that'd be
Okay.
really great if we could get that in our lilies. But go ahead.
But what are they using for the peppermint experience?
Ben, it says natural flavors. So I think it's in
Okay, I
that.
got you. Yeah, okay, we'll move on. We'll move on. Okay, we'll move on from that question. Okay, good.
But we're still going to talk
I'll
about
go
them
back.
because they're delicious and
Yeah,
versatile.
yeah. I'll go back to my. So the beautiful part with just peppermint in general is like we have a recipe that is and people know this recipe is a classic, easy to make. It's kind of no bake unless you go really intense. So I did make my own pudding. Thank you, Carolyn Ketchum, for some help on that one. Um, but the interesting part is that I took the better than sex, and what it is, it's a layer of like a nut crust. Like I use almond flour pecans, crushed pecans. Then I threw in, I think it has a layer of like a cream cheese, which makes like a cheesecake, but a no bake cheesecake. And then you throw in the pudding on top, and then you have a layer of whipped cream. So we've all seen this, right?
Right. Yes.
Molly, have you ever seen this?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And some people call it like as close to Robert Redford as you can get. There's so many. I think the New York Times calls it. What was it that they call it? Because they were avoiding, I think, some of the more, some would say, distasteful. They just called it a cheesecake chocolate pudding bar. But the key is, I just threw in a little bit of peppermint oil into the chocolate pudding. It is amazing. It's delicious. I get the mini experience, and it totally changed the recipe for me. But that's how simple it is. So if we even have basic sugar cookie we love, just throw in a little extract. You're
Right.
going to start with a half of extract, or maybe a drop or two of the oil, because the oil is a lot more powerful
I was
than the
just going to
extract.
say, talk to us the difference between peppermint oil, peppermint extract. They're not the same.
So the oil, they are not the same. So the oil is just going to be, it's not going to have anything to dilute it. Whereas typically an extract will have some alcohol or some sort of filler of any extract you get. But with the oil, it's just going to be very concentrated. It's going to be straight up peppermint oil. So as opposed to using for instance, if one of the recipes, that one we just discussed with the chocolate pudding, you can use a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of peppermint extract. I would only use 2 to 4 drops of peppermint oil. And we're talking like tiny, tiny drops, like a teardrop, if even that drop.
So I think if you can, and the peppermint oil would be a higher price point, but you're going to use it so sparingly.
Yes.
But, it's going to be
I've
your
had
purest.
it for 3 years. It's like xanthan gum, Molly, which we've discussed. It will be in the pantry forever, and do not let it spill, because your kitchen will smell like peppermint for the rest of your life.
But then maybe your sister would not have headaches when she was there. She'd be like,
I'm just like, go sniff in the spice drawer. Go smell that spilled peppermint oil.
So the lilies chips,
yes.
These are something that, kind of like you said, you could put a drop or two of peppermint oil in your favorite better for you baked good, and you immediately have made your healthier sugar cookies are now peppermint sugar cookies. The Lily's peppermint white chocolate baking chips are sort of that versatile. Like you can put these in anything. You also melt the Lily's chips and like use that as a pourable.
I would melt them, and I think what we've done historically is we've put maybe a teaspoon or two of coconut oil to give it a little bit more of an oil base, so you can create kind of that ganache. But even what we're talking about, so we can totally do that. And there are like a peppermint ganache frosting that's even on the Swerve sweetener website, which is a sweetener we have often used. That you approve of, Molly. But there's even that where you could use the Lily's peppermint chocolate chips as a substitute for whatever baking chocolate is used in that recipe.
Right.
And it's pretty amazing. And, Lily's has done just a good job with innovation and creativity to provide us flavor profiles like this peppermint that we want, but we just don't want the sugar hit that we get out of normal chips. And they taste good.
I just said Lily's and we didn't even get into that, but you're right. They are stevia sweetened. They are 0 sugar. And then a serving size is only about 60 calories. It's 0 sugar. It's about 3 grams net carbs. And a serving size it's 33 chips, or about half an ounce. It's probably about a quarter cup, I would think, is about a serving size. And so they're really, they have so many different flavor varieties. But this one, yes, anything that you're making that calls for chocolate chips, you could just make it festive with this by using the lilies.
Yes.
If there's anything that's chocolate sauce or anything that's like melted chocolate. And then they also, because they're like a chocolate chip that's like solid at room temp, you could melt it. You could dip the edges of your whatever into it. Like if you're going to make, I don't know, protein balls, or you're having like your sugar cookies, you could almost like dip a little bit of it, and then
you 100% could do that, Molly.
Or drizzle
you
over
could do
the
like
top.
a half and half. Like I feel like the black and white cookie is pretty popular.
Yeah.
And you could basically make that same cookie, but make it with the peppermint.
Yes.
On one side, and that would be amazing.
So when we talk about our peppermint finds, lilies, I would say, is at the top of the list because it's so versatile. When I've got to talk about two things really quickly for coffee that I would say will save you money and save you just an immense amount of sugar. Because if you're going to the coffee shop and you're buying a peppermint latte, it's, they're easily 40 plus grams of sugar in one, and that's all added sugar. And they're not cheap. I mean, like a coffee shop drink isn't cheap. I had somebody tell me they were at a coffee shop recently and it was like an iced coffee, like a flavored iced coffee, and it was $7.
Isn't that wild?
Wild, yeah. And I'll usually get a coffee, like a latte or something like that, but they're usually like in the $4 range. I mean, $7 for something like that was, what I would say is you're welcome for saving you money and sugar with what we're about to say. One, there's a product here. It is local to New Orleans, but you can also look for it online. Cool Brew, and it's basically like it's a coffee concentrate that you can serve it hot or iced, and it's kind of like you squeeze it up and it gives the dispenser. I don't know how do you describe this, Ben, where you squeeze it, it feels like. Have you seen this that I'm talking? I'm showing Ben in FaceTime.
I've seen that in other formats, but like not mouthwash. In coffee.
Yeah, it's like
mouthwash. Yeah. That's right. It reminds me of Act.
Yes.
Back in the day.
Where it's got two little things going up and you squeeze it and it perfectly measures your 1 ounce of coffee right there.
Well, what happens to the second one? Is that just air or something to help it get to the top of the other? And what we're looking at is like a plastic bottle, but it has two spouts with two caps. And Molly is squeezing the bottom of the bottle, and it is filling up one of these small little spigots. Yeah. But does the other one get coffee in it if you chose to squeeze the other side?
No, it just that's just for air.
That must be used for air to help the flow.
And so this gives you your little serving of coffee, and you could then do it hot or iced. And so Cool Brew is something that, like I said, it's a New Orleans brand. They have seasonally, specifically their peppermint mocha, and it's 0 calories, and it's basically just coffee with it's coffee chicory or chicory coffee, and then some peppermint in there.
People do not know chicory. That is definitely local in New Orleans.
It gives, I would say it gives a really strong, nice flavor, which is also great when you're doing that concentrate. And then the other one that I have that if you didn't have the Cool Brew, you couldn't find it, or, ordering it online is harder if you're not living near here. The Nut Pods, which is like an almond and coconut creamer. Nut Pods is something that's around year round. And then seasonally, they also have their peppermint mocha. What I'll say is if you're still lucky enough that by the time you're here on this podcast, you can still find the peppermint mocha creamer. When I got this one that was in November, I might have picked it up in late October 2022. The expiration is not until the middle of June 2023. Oh, wow. So if you are, Ben, there's your summertime peppermint.
I also feel like I remember you talking about this. We've had this conversation.
Like you could stockpile this.
And I'm having deja vu about Nut Pods. Because I think our discussion was, can we freeze it?
I don't know.
Do you remember that or no?
But see, here's the thing. Like you wouldn't have to freeze it if it's lasting you for 6 months.
Because of the expiration date. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So you would be able to just stockpile it. You could, Ben's level, like you would have your peppermint in the summertime. It expires mid-July, and you could just hang on to it. So those are two that if you're going to do hot or iced coffee, peppermint latte, peppermint mocha, whatever, the Cool Brew version, that's the peppermint mocha, and the Nut Pods peppermint creamer are just two ways to that are essentially no sugar, or the Nut Pods is also 0 sugar and 10 calories. So there's nothing happening there from a sugar perspective or hardly a calorie perspective, but it just gives you that flavor. And also, if you're making that yourself, you're saving so much money. So you can afford to stockpile.
Look at you, Molly. So you're just you're checking boxes.
Checking boxes.
Molly, I was also thinking, I was like, people may not ever want to hang out with us when we like do our every 2 weeks walk and talks and things like that, or catch up, because they talk about nut pods and if they can freeze them. Like, that's what we talk about, y'all. You're seeing underneath the hood.
That's true. Ben and I, we have our walk and talks because Ben lives in Dallas. I'm here in New Orleans. And so, yes, we have our walk and talks where we solve the world's problems. And, and then sometimes like I'll be laughing and I'm like, I'm walking by myself and I'm like laughing, like so animated, waving my hands around. And, then you see me doing that, that I'm talking to Ben. One of the others is a protein powder. You're familiar with Orgain. And so they have, I don't know if they do it every year, but I was excited to see this year they have a peppermint hot cocoa protein powder. So plant-based protein powder. So you could, again, you can make a smoothie with it. You could make if you also didn't have something like access to the cold brew, you could use regular coffee concentrate and use a peppermint flavored protein powder. Blend that up, make an iced coffee, kind of use a little immersion blender, or put it in a blender and make like a frozen like frappe type thing.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. So,
do they make it in? Let me see this protein. Can I? Let me just see it so I can see. I know everyone else can't see it. Oh, it's cute packaging. Okay. Well, I'm definitely going to try that out.
Yeah. So it's a plant-based protein powder. It's a blend of like pea protein, which has a super neutral flavor, and then also some brown rice protein. It's, so it's a vegan product. And then that peppermint mocha or peppermint hot cocoa is what they call it. Yeah. They're pretty interesting.
And y'all, it has a little penguin in their branding and it is sipping on a little hot cocoa. Just if you're looking for it.
I haven't usually done protein powder in a hot beverage like that. And as I look at the instructions, it's telling us to mix it in like water or almond milk and then shake it or use a blender. I can't say that I would, they're showing us a picture of hot cocoa. You could try it, but I would probably rather map that protein powder more in a smoothie or such.
Yeah, I would agree. Because there is, there is a good, I think it's also Carolyn Ketchum. I like throwing her out there because she's quite an inspiration in the low carb or the low sugar world. She has a wonderful hot cocoa recipe. And now in my head, I'm like, I wonder if I could add this to that as an ingredient, this protein powder.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah, I'd have to play. Yes. And it would give us more of that peppermint experience, which I love.
And Carolyn and I just did a podcast on holiday baking.
Well, even more exciting.
Yes.
That's great.
Baking, she talked about, and we'll link to, it was a biscotti that has a peppermint dark chocolate biscotti. But we also talked about just bakery for like baked goods for like if you're going to someone's house or you're having something at your own that are kind of like sweets. Well, sweets and savory, but then also like event-based baking. So whether it's like it's pies, it's breads, it's stuff like that would be like part of your like dinner, not just the bakery snack. But Carolyn Ketchum, who you're hearing Ben and I talk about, her website is alldayidreamaboutfood.com. And she's a brilliant baker. She's super creative. Like Ben said, he and I get just so much inspiration from her. So Ben, we just hired, I think I told you that we just hired a chef at our fitness center.
Yeah.
Yes.
You did.
So Chef Ryan Kahn, and he's amazing. He's very wellness minded, super talented. He's worked with incredible chefs over the years, and he's come from amazing spaces that he's had the opportunity to like just really hone his skills as a chef. One of the areas that's really, still new for a lot of people though is the lower carb baking. And so even as chefs, like the plant-based sweeteners, like there's just so much new on that. And so he and I were having the conversation about that today, actually, just before you and I did this podcast. And we have this gorgeous big bakery case at our fitness center. And he's, kind of getting all jazzed about like, what's he going to, get creative with to like fill it and be, just be more robust with it. And we were perusing Carolyn's website for that, so he's finding that inspiration. So alldayidreamaboutfood.com is where Ben is going to reference one of the recipes from there in just a bit. But you can also just go to that website, Carolyn's website. If you just typed in peppermint, it would pull up so much different options for you, you know. Let's take a minute to share about Caraway Home, partner for this week's episode. Caraway Home's non-toxic kitchenware collections make cooking and baking a piece of cake. We love our Caraway cookware. It's our go-to for everything from seared salmon to creamy spinach to our Eat Fit candied cashews. The pans heat up quickly, they cook evenly, and they're incredibly easy to clean. Also, this only happens once a year. Caraway's Cyber Season event is almost here. Save up to 20% on all Caraway products, including their internet famous non-toxic cookware set, also Caraway's food storage, tea kettle, and mini cookware. Visit carawayhome.com to take advantage of their Cyber Season event and score up to 20% off your next purchase of non-toxic kitchenware. This deal won't last long, so visit carawayhome.com to shop your favorite colors and products for up to 20% off this holiday season. Caraway, non-toxic cookware made modern. Okay, so we talked about store-bought things with the lilies or kind of solutions for peppermint lattes, protein powders there. What are some of your other kind of go-tos or like solutions for people when they're having that hankering for candy canes?
Yeah, I think it's, and Molly, one reason, and I know we paused for a minute, is that I do have a big old Cody Brown Osborne that we've discussed before.
Oh.
He is doing everything he can to be on this podcast.
Oh.
He just went over to his bowl. He started drinking water. I'm right by his bowl. And then he got right beside me and started, dogs have a tendency to reverse sneeze. And it's almost like they have asthma a little bit. And you have to cover their nostrils like this to make them stop. And what I'm doing is putting my fingers right over his nostrils so he breathes out of his mouth. And that helps him stop doing that. But he literally came right beside me and started going, and I'm like, and then Molly was like, Ben, you're muted. I can't hear you. And I'm like, you don't want to hear me.
I have my fingers up Cody Brown's nose.
I was trying to silence him. I was like, of all the times, he hasn't done this all week and then right now.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's fine. I know that's a little segue. But, I think I think we've discussed it a little bit. If there is a recipe you love, you just want a hint of peppermint. Again, if it's a half a teaspoon of the peppermint extract or a drop or two of peppermint oil, I always taste the batter before I cook.
Yeah.
Just to get the experience. Like, am I overdoing it? And if you want something quick and easy, there are mug cakes out there. I'm sure Carolyn has a few. I know there are some on the Swerve website. And if you want to drop a little bit in those mug cakes, just, a fourth of a teaspoon of peppermint extract, then you could get that delicious experience quickly in a mug cake. But also the cocoa is a great experience for peppermint hot chocolate, just to kind of get that in that format. And then Molly, we even mentioned people, I was just on a trip. I was in LA. I was with some friends of mine from college. It's an annual trip we take. And there were guys sitting on the beach that sent us a picture. People went their different ways until we came back together for dinner or something. But there were guys on the beach drinking like mojitos. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't seen a mojito in forever. But I was like, what a great idea. Like, that gives you the mint experience. Mint is muddled in mojito. But if you want to have like that mint experience and even have a mocktail or a non-alcoholic beverage, you could just add a little oil to it. You can add regular mint too. And then add some extract and enjoy that mint experience. Or just using the leaves is a different approach.
I think one of the keys there would be like the simple syrup is where, the sugar would be coming in. And so you're right. You could up the game on the mint experience with like a drop of the peppermint oil, or they're just muddling, mint leaves or extra mint leaves. And then the simple syrup, the Eat Fit simple syrup, we use either Swerve or we also use Allulose. And those are two that you can make. And the allulose base, which is both of those are natural plant-based sweeteners. They're not artificial sweeteners. The allulose-based simple syrup, I like that one even a little better, Ben, because it doesn't settle out. It doesn't recrystallize. And I'll keep that in my fridge for just weeks and weeks. And you don't have to like stir it or anything. It just stays in suspension. And now you have like that ready-made simple syrup. And then you also could even, if you were going to go like fully the mint route, you could make the simple syrup. And we have the recipe actually in our new book in Craft.
Yeah.
Woo!
Exciting.
You could put some of the mint leaves in that simple syrup also,
Yes.
and kind
And
of
that, and
infuse it a
so
little bit.
infuse it. Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. And I just wanted to call out with allulose. Like there are times like I know I believe it's Wholesome Sweeteners has a really solid allulose product. They have it in powder form. So you can see that on the shelf, but there also is a liquid form.
Yes. Yeah. Good
And that
point.
makes it easier when you're making that
You're right.
simple syrup, not to get, it
You
yeah, go
literally
ahead,
could
Molly.
just use the allulose syrup as it is. You don't even need a recipe for it. You can buy the
That's right.
allulose and
Just put a
then,
few drops in
yeah,
your drink and it sweetens it and it will
you're
and
right.
it's liquid form, which is pretty awesome.
You're right. So making your own simple syrup can take, less than 10 minutes. It's really, really easy. However, like it can also still be a barrier because it's just one more thing to do. And so that
Yes.
allulose simple syrup by Wholesome is a really good product just to keep on hand. It's almost like a nectar type consistency and flavor, a little bit of like a hint of like a butterscotch or vanilla. And so it's very mild, very pleasant. Um, Tell me more about though, like we talked about the pudding, which you're calling better than Christmas morning pudding.
I am.
And I believe we're going to include that also on our Eat Fit app.
That's right.
Okay, so we'll have your better than Christmas morning pudding. Could we call it better than Christmas morning peppermint pudding?
Yes, that is actually what I call it.
Okay, because
And
otherwise,
I wouldn't even call it pudding 'cause that can be misleading. It's more of a bar. So it's more of a better than Christmas morning peppermint bar.
okay.
I don't know. What do we call it? Or better than Christmas morning peppermint dessert in a pan. Oh, it's too much. We'll figure it out.
Peppermint layered bar, maybe.
Yeah, that may be better. So that
Um,
it's not confusing.
Well, if we land on something else, at least y'all, if you're out on the Eat Fit app, first of all, the Eat Fit app is free. It's free for download. You can find Eat Fit restaurants near you and see what dishes are at those restaurants and the nutrition facts of those dishes at your Eat Fit restaurants near you. But we have hundreds and hundreds of recipes on the app. You'll find Ben's peppermint scone on the app, and you'll see, again, a photo of it and the recipe. And that scone is made with almond flour. It is low carb, it's gluten free, all those attributes. And then you'll
Yes.
also see his better than Christmas morning. If you just type in Christmas, I'm sure there's not going to be many things that'll fall or better than in case we change
Yeah.
anything, but it's probably going to be better than Christmas morning something. But
Yes,
we'll have
we'll
the
figure it
recipe.
out.
By the time this podcast is airing, that recipe will be on our app with some name that we have landed on. And then also, like I said, Ben's peppermint scones. The peppermint mojito, you mentioned, we can do that easily with just a nice Eat Fit simple syrup, or like you said, the allulose simple syrup. And then tell
Yep.
me about the candy cane cookies. This
Yeah.
was one of the first recipes maybe that you and I. It was
I
within the
think it
first
is.
year. Yeah.
I think it is. It's for so this is when Molly was teaching me about better for you flours and diabetic friendly options and things like that. So I think the first time I made the candy canes, I used whole wheat like pastry flour because that was a step away from the white flours.
Mm-hmm.
That is Molly took me through my stages. And so that was the first time. Then I was like, you know what? Now that I'm using the almond flour and coconut flour and things like that, let's try to make it completely gluten free for our celiac friends, for also just that lower carb hit for diabetics. Let's see what we can do. So there is a recipe that we have featured on WGNO when we've done a segment, and I believe it was the candy cane cookie that my mom made my entire life. Like it would not be a holiday or part of the Christmas season if we did not have these minty, delicious candy canes that are basically sugar cookie, and you roll out the dough and you can, and the thing is, Molly, this actually, we can go back to some of those dyes. They do now have in the store some better for you
Yeah.
food colorings because you do need to make one. You can make them as colorful as you want. You can make unicorn candy canes if you wanted to, but you need at least red and white. So you've got your normal dough color of just that pale color with the almond flour and coconut. But then you would need to have some dye to make the red because then you twist it into a candy cane form and then you glaze it with a little peppermint glaze. And they are wonderful. They're exciting. They're festive. And it's great.
Did you give them to your mom like whenever? No, I know your mom used to make them and make extra and send you back to college with them very,
Yes.
very carefully packaged.
Oh, it is. It's a high demand option. Like I have friends that were like, "Where are your candy cane cookies?"
But tell me how she packaged them. She was very careful,
She
right?
would
About
wrap. Oh yeah, she would wrap them each one in like wax paper to where it gave a little bit of protection, and she
yes.
would even ship them in the mail
She
to
would or
me.
wouldn't, you said?
She would,
Because versus you taking
and they
them?
would not break. Well, sometimes I'd take them back, but other times, if she just made them in advance where I came home for the
Mm,
holiday, she would send them so that my college friends could enjoy them.
mm.
But she also did that with every holiday. She always made a holiday themed sugar cookie.
And
Whether
packaged them very
Valentine's,
specially?
she always packaged them in wax paper and sent them to me. Normally,
Oh.
like in a shoebox, which is shocking.
Filled with sugar cookies, individually wrapped
Yes.
to
Yes.
like little pillows around each of the cookies.
Oh, Molly,
Um,
that is so poetic. Thank you.
and so the Ben's version of his mom's candy cane cookies are beautiful. They're festive. Like you said, they're all natural using those colors. They're naturally gluten free. They are also low sugar or like no added sugar. So we'll have the link for his candy cane cookies. It'll be, gosh, that's going to be a vintage segment from what you and I did on
It
WGNO.
will be
Yeah,
very
we'll
vintage.
pull
I may
that.
cry. What if I cry when I watch
Uh,
it?
we're gonna see. I'm gonna do. I wonder when it is. Where it's like a candy cane cookie. Um, any other things that like are coming to mind for us to share, like inspiration? Um, I think the biggest thing is if you're craving something, you kind of have that hankering for a peppermint flavored whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like Ben said, there's so many ways to
Like
make it
Molly,
better for you.
I was just thinking, like, even if you took that those Lily's chips, and people now love the sweet and salty popcorn. Like you could totally make a
Yes.
popcorn ball
Yes.
with Lily's peppermint, and then you get
Mm-hmm.
that kind of experience of the salt, the minty,
Mm-hmm.
and the sweet in a popcorn ball, which
Yeah.
I think would be fun. But you could make truffles, you could make meringues, you can make even Andy's mint cups. I think it's on the Swerve website,
Yes.
and even and which is Carolyn's recipe, I believe, and then even some. What did we make one time? We made like peppermint patties,
Uh-huh.
which can be year round.
Yeah.
Summer, they can cool you again.
Well, because we took basically the peanut butter cup recipe that you did for our
Yes.
Eat Fit cookbook and you put some peppermint oil in that and made it festive.
That's right. And I do believe because we wanted that white cream experience,
You're
I used
right.
a little cream cheese in that
You're right. You're
instead of the
right.
peanut butter filling.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I'm going to see if I can find that one. So I did find the segment that you and I did that had your candy cane
How long ago was
recipe.
that?
I believe, Ben, this is the second segment you and I ever did. For some
Oh,
reason, I feel like
wow.
the first segment you and I ever did was in November
Okay. That seems
of
right.
2015. So this is December of 2015, 7 years ago.
That is wild.
Yes. And so I'm going to link to that here so you can see us. And you can see if we look like children. I'm going to just, I'm interested to see like what it looks like here.
Listen, we make a good couple in photographs. I don't want your husband, Brad, to get jealous.
I think a lot of people have thought that you are my husband.
I get it.
Especially like if we're like every month we'd be doing segments and there was all these videos and photos. And then if Ben was in town for the segment, we're doing something else socially. So sometimes I would be like, wow, I have more pictures of Ben than Brad at this moment. In fact, for our cookbook, for the Eat Fit cookbook, I was like, Brad, like I need to make sure that you're in the book because we have
Yes.
been through the entire dessert chapter, the indulge chapter.
Yeah.
And already I had people who thought that you were my husband and so I said, Brad, we need to get some pictures of you. So begrudgingly, we got some photos of Brad in there.
We're secretly the Joanna and whatever her husband's name Gaines. We're secretly those people, but no one knows that but us.
Nobody knows it. So yeah, I'll link to our candy cane recipe there. And you're right, it was one that you did with whole wheat flour versus like a almond flour or
Yes.
other. But still, I mean, beautiful, festive. And I think, I mean, we've got a lot of options here. And I'm going to link to even a few more of the ones that you talked about, some that I had forgotten about that are just going to be really easy TV segments, and I'll also include, I'm going to have just kind of a list, like download the Eat Fit app and you'll find this, this, and this as far as your recipes there. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Awesome. Ben, thank you for sharing this with me. I always love it. We're just kind of to drum up, like, what's our next topic that we want to talk about that we can get you on for?
I know, this was too much fun. I've missed doing this with you, Molly.
I know.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for having Cody Brown.
All right. I'll talk to you soon, Ben.
Okay. Bye, Molly.
I always have a blast with Ben. He is one of my favorite people on the planet, and I have a feeling that after hearing this, you can understand why. And hopefully, I have a feeling he's also one of yours. And he's not only hilarious in his conversation, he's also incredibly thorough, as you hear, and he has just really fun ideas about, and knowledge about baking and gifting and just the creative approach to things that maybe we think are just automatically not healthy, and he's going to like rework them and has the enthusiasm and the know-how to do it. It's also funny, I'll share with y'all, right after Ben and I finished, like literally we stopped recording and my husband came in a few minutes after, and he had 2 more peppermint things that I wanted to share with y'all. And one is something that he was asking about that he's been hearing different people talk about. Like, I guess, I don't even know where, but he like walked in the door and he was like, I have been hearing people talk about this Chick-fil-A peppermint milkshake. And he's like, it sounds delicious. And I was like, are you messing with me? Because we just like literally just finished an entire podcast on peppermint everything. And so he's like, I mean, it can't really be that much of sugar or whatever. Like, he's like, let's look it up. So we looked it up right after Ben and I finished. 660 calories for a milkshake, but 94 grams of sugar. And he's like, well, how many like sugar packets is that? And it's roughly 24 sugar packets. He's like, that's impossible. Like, it's possible. So when we're talking about the peppermint lattes or other things that sort of were the inspiration for the segment, okay, apparently that Chick-fil-A line is going to be even longer for people who are swinging through for their peppermint milkshake. So all of these things that we're talking about can help, the protein powder that we talked about. But the other thing, I mentioned that Brad came in and he had 2 things about peppermint. The other thing, he had a sample of Vital Proteins. It's collagen, but it's peppermint mocha Vital Proteins. And so this is something that has about 10 grams of collagen peptides, basically collagen protein per serving, and it's the peppermint mocha. So again, if you were going to make your own smoothie, do any of these, or using those nut pods for the peppermint creamers, those are all ways that you could still get these flavors, creating your own smoothie or milkshake, maybe keeping you out of that Chick-fil-A line for their peppermint milkshake. And like we said, all of this, y'all, it's not just better for us nutritionally, it's also saving us money, right? So anyway, a tremendous thank you to Ben. Always, always so much fun. And we'll include the links that we talked about, the recipes and some of the websites and platforms that he was sharing with y'all. And as you try some of these products or recipes, of course, we always want to hear about it. I am registered dietitian Molly Kimball, and you've been listening to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, the podcast. If you'd like more Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, please head over to mollykimball.com and you can follow me, Molly Kimball RD, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you haven't yet, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join us next week for another dose of Fueled Wellness and Nutrition. Thanks for listening, and stay focused on living your strongest, healthiest life.